If you were to look back over the models I've reviewed across the last 2 years on the channel, you'll see that I'm certainly no stranger to buying watches through AliExpress. Indeed, you might go as far as saying, I've got a bit of a problem. What can I say? The name of the channel is not accidental. If I see something I like and I can afford it, 9 times out of 10 I'm going to buy it. Almost all of my experiences with the website have actually been really quite positive, allowing me to access watches that cost a fraction of what they would with a Western brand name on the dial. However, in this video I wanted to try something different. I scoured the website for the very cheapest watch I could find, to try and find out if there is quality to be had still. I'm not expecting much, but is it really that bad? With that premise set, let's get into the video. I want to start by saying that while I'm calling it the cheapest watch on AliExpress, in reality that title changes hands constantly. I purchased this piece using a discount code during one of their big sale windows, and it cost me around $2. At the time I couldn't find anything cheaper, but to be factually accurate, let's just say that it's one of the cheapest watches available on the site. If you actually wanted to hunt down and buy this watch though, that's not very easy, as it isn't branded or marked in any way. There is a named store that sells them, but I've no idea whether that is the name of the shop or the brand, as not a single watch listed has any branding on it. As a result of that, I'm not going to name them here, as I don't think that would be fair given my uncertainty. That's nice in a sense because any criticisms I may have aren't really directed anywhere, and believe me, there are a few things I need to say about this piece. Let's at least try and address what it is, because the design here is unconventional to say the least. It can trace the history of its inspiration back through a couple of recent releases, both from 2024. The main two that spring to mind are the Casio GA2100 Manga series and the D1 Milano Sketch range. Both ranges use thick outlines around key watch features to make them look like drawings come to life. The end result is a cool rotoscoped aesthetic that puts me in mind of Aha's Take On Me music video. Both watches released within a month of each other, so I'm not sure who, if anyone, has been copying the other's homework, but even at this early stage I'll say that if you like the look of these models, buy the real thing. Octagonal G-Shock models are my guilty pleasure and I can't stop buying them, and I've owned a Milano in the past and was pleasantly surprised by its quality too. On the subject of the Milano, that's clearly the more relevant of the two, as whatever this is, it's clearly more of a homage to the D1. With some battery-powered products, you might find a tearaway strip stopping the battery connecting to preserve it. In a similar vein, this piece turned up with a clip holding the crown in place. Usually this is there to protect the movement, stem and crown from damage during shipping, and it should also stop the battery being wasted, but clearly that wasn't the case here. Instead, it left the movement bouncing in place. Not a great start. The entire case and bracelet is made from lightweight plastic. The bracelet is connected with pins and meets in the middle with a stainless steel butterfly clasp. It's possible to get a decent fit, and given the materials, it's light and comfortable to wear on wrist. However, the sound it makes when moving is a dead giveaway of its price point. If you remember the plastic snake toys that you could get in front of a till at a toy shop for around 10p, 10 cents in the 90s, you'll recognise the sound. The bracelet has a secondary effect that might not immediately be obvious. The first link on either side is not particularly mobile, meaning that the lug-to-lug width is essentially extended on both sides. Not that you'd ever find the measurement stated anywhere anyway, but this is a watch that wears larger than it looks. In terms of aesthetics, I think the general look of these cartoon style watches is fun and eye-catching, but definitely very informal. fine for a day out at a comic book convention, but maybe frowned upon in a formal meeting. On a personal note, it did make for an enjoyable piece to film because it creates such stark contrast with almost any background you give it. The thing is, like any other homage, you can't and really shouldn't give this piece any credit for that. It's the D1 Milano designers and comic book artists that really deserve credit if this is a style that appeals to you. I think it's also worth saying that at this price point of genuinely almost nothing, if you are going to buy a watch, a homage is actually probably the best bet. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but when we're talking in cents, not dollars, do you really want any of the development to have gone into designing the watch itself? Now, I'm not advising that you do try and buy a watch this cheap, and I'm certainly not advocating for watches that lean heavily on the tracing paper, but if you do look at original designs at this price point, my goodness, there are some horrors out there. There are actually 5 watches within the range, 2 black, 2 white and 1 cyan. These other models do provide us with some information that will give you an idea of what to expect from the watch without handling one. 2 of the models are a different, more angular style and come on silicone straps rather than the polycarbonate bracelet. The ones on the silicone straps actually weigh 7 grams more, which I hope really helps to give you an idea of the flimsiness of the bracelet. The rest of the spec sheet does make for some interesting reading. The watch measures in at 40.5mm in diameter and 9.8mm thick, so quite wearable. It's stated to have mineral crystal, which I can believe, but also anti-reflective undercoating, which I'm a little more dubious of. Perhaps the most outlandish claim is that this has 30 meters of water resistance. I simply do not believe that this would survive me washing my hands while wearing it, let alone submerging it. The spec sheet also states that this has a quartz movement, which is true, but the origin is unclear. I was tempted to take the piece apart and find out what's powering it, but despite the low cost, this is still a functional watch, so I don't want to break it just for the sake of a video. Whatever the movement is, the answer is not impressive. After 2 days of wear, it was 3 minutes slow, which is absolutely criminal for a quartz. I do wonder if that is because the movement seems to judder at specific angles. Either way, if you only need the rough time, I guess it's okay, but for any real accuracy, it's definitely out of the question. In fairness to it, the watch is squarely advertised for fashion purposes, and therein lies its only real use case scenario for me. I'm not entirely sure what sort of fancy dress getup this would pair with, but that's genuinely the only viable reason I see for purchasing one. That's actually not quite true. At the time of writing, over 200 of these had been sold, and one verified buyer shared an image of his weekend race car that has the same design. Even then though, if you like a look enough to get your car styled after it, surely a watch from D1 Milano or Casio isn't out of the question. As a final aside, I'm fairly sure it's just poor translation, but part of the advert for these models discusses a gift battery, which is actually just the battery inside the watch, as if that was an optional extra they've thrown in. I'll be honest, when I first had the idea for this video and put in the order for this watch, I wasn't expecting the answer to be quite as visually obvious as this piece makes it. I've never seen juddering like this on any watch before, so I think the only realistic conclusion that can be drawn is to say that the answer to the question of how bad is it, it's really bad. I'll finish with a disclaimer here. I don't want you to go away from this video with the impression that buying from AliExpress is a bad idea. In my opinion, it's just like any other shop. You're going to get what you pay for. I've purchased some excellent watches for amazing prices on the site, and I don't think anyone would have high expectations for almost any product purchased at a low price point like this one, let alone a wristwatch. What's deeply ironic about the model is that it's shipped with a bracelet adjustment tool, which is actually really robust and to me worth more than I paid for the watch, and long term far more valuable than the watch itself. I guess every cloud really does have a silver lining. As ever, thank you for your time. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, consider dropping the video a like and subscribing for more content like this in future.